I hope that in the next 20 years we will see more growth of business, so that in 20 years' time, business involvement, and not business involved charitably, but the growth of enterprise as a contribution to development, I hope that it will become a much more normal thing. So I hope they'll say, oh yeah, they got it right, more or less. But who knows? I think if you go back 20 years, you would also be surprised. I mean, business was involved then partly philanthropically, but less as an integral part of their business. I think that's something that's changed. Secondly, a lot has changed in businesses' willingness to interact with civil society organizations, and that, I think, is fundamentally important. We have to keep each actor, have them keeping each other honest, as it were.
ODI's debate started a new trend of thinking about what development means in the 21st century. I think a lot of the panel debates today and the audience participation clearly pointed out that there's no more one model, if ever there was, something like a Washington consensus, but rather anything which goes forward has to be more interconnected, more participatory, and much more multilateral. And that is in many ways a change in the way that economic development had been thought of before, which was much more, ironically, I don't want to use the holistic, but ironically it was a approach. You saw it in the former Soviet Union, you saw it in Africa, Latin America, you had the Brazilian model from the 70s, you had various models, but that doesn't seem to be the thinking anymore. Now it's about actors, it's about capacity, and it's about taking what works for countries like China, taking a broader view about institutions and how they need to be engaged with, both from developing and developed countries, and making that how you move forward. And I think that would be something that perhaps is a change, and in 20 years' time could mean that that's the kind of template that they're talking about then. Or in 20 years' time, they could have brilliant technology and everything could be vastly different, I don't know. But my view is that I think there have been some real interesting cross-sections of perspectives from science, business, grassroots, economics, and I think it's this kind of holistic approach that will define development for the next few years.
I think in 20 years' time we'd be sitting, looking back and thinking just how far we've come beyond aid in the conventional sense that we know it today as being considered a major driver in international development. I think we'd be looking back and realizing that those times are past. Aid is no longer something that the North does to the South or provides to the South. It's a much more decentralized, citizen-led phenomena which links people globally in this sort of open source network kind of way. Aid still exists, but it'll be in a very different form.
I think if people were looking back 20 years at what we've been debating today in the ODI conference, they'd be quite amused because they would see fragmentation that they don't have currently. The research communities work together, but the funders don't work together. We've got a very nationalistic approach to science currently, and people would see that that was rather strange, I hope, because what I'd like to see develop over the next 20 years is a global network that addresses the big global challenges. And with all the ICT, with all the communication technology that we have now, and that's going to be available even more so in the future to those in developing countries, they will be able to network efficiently, effectively, and start to really address the global challenges like climate change, like energy security, water security. And I won't say that they'll have got there in terms of solving those, but there'll be a far greater contribution from the world's scientists because of that networking.